Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Rocket Chiro podcast, the business and marketing podcast for chiropractors. My name's Jerry. I'm your host. I'm a former chiropractor. I help chiropractors now with websites and local SEO. I help new chiropractors get started, stuck chiropractors get unstuck, and I host this little podcast. Today we're going to talk about the three categories that affect Google and AI local search. This is just to help chiropractors better understand what are the things that they should be focusing on, or if they are working with someone that's helping them with local search, what are the things that those people should be focusing on that's going to help them with Google search and also with AI search. So we're going to unpack that in this episode. Before I get into that, I do want to say if you want a better chiropractic website or you want help with your local SEO, reach out to me through Rocket Chiro. I have closed down my local SEO service for my, except for my website client. So just be aware of that. If you want some help with local SEO, you do have to be a website client. If you want to go beyond the podcast and get some additional content, you want to get some additional help, you want to be able to reach out to me and ask questions, check out my Next Step program. It's a great place for chiropractors that are getting started or chiropractors that are feeling a little bit stuck and just want some help heading in the right direction, especially with the new year coming. If you want to have a better year next year than this year and you're feeling kind of stuck, Next Step's a great place to check out. If you want me to look at your website and SEO and you just want me to give you my 2 cents, see how you compare to other chiropractors in your area, I'd be happy to do that. I'll do a free website and SEO review. You can just request that at rocketchiro.com and I'd be happy to look at your stuff. No pressure, no obligation, just really, really great information. I want to talk about AI more on upcoming podcasts. I have some different thoughts. I've actually tried to record some podcasts and then decided not to because I don't know that I have my thoughts all together yet. One of the things that is happening a lot in my world is that I do have people that are getting a hold of me and they seem to be insinuating that because AI is a part of search now, that people aren't using Google and they're just using AI. And part of this is probably because as people do a little bit of research and kind of digging into things, and as you get advertisements kind of hitting you from different people talking about AI, because that's all the rage now, you might be under the impression that Google search is obsolete and that AI search is like the way to go. And if you're not focusing on that, you're sort of missing out. I think that there's some truth and some error in that line of thinking. Number one is that to think that people just stopped using Google and now they're using some sort of AI platform is just ridiculous. That's not what people are doing. I know some people are using AI more than Google. The other thing to take into consideration is AI is a part of Google now. So there's sort of an integration of that. And so it's just not as cut and dry as like people just aren't using Google anymore. That's sort of a silly thought. The other silly thought that is sort of mixed in with that line of thinking is that AI search and why you show up in AI search and what AI is looking for is drastically different than what Google looks for. That's not the case either. And I think that these three categories that we're going to talk about in terms of local search, they apply to both Google local search and AI local search. Which things they look at and how they prioritize different things. Like I understand that there's going to be a difference between those two platforms, but there's a lot of overlap. And these are going to be the three categories that you're going to want to focus on. So what are these three categories? The three categories are relevance, prominence, and proximity. Those are going to be the three big bucket categories that are going to influence local SEO. Now, one of the things I say all the time is that there is no secret to SEO. It's doing a lot of little things correctly, consistently. And what you're trying to do, and this is true for AI also, but when I talk about Google, I always talk about Google within the context of building trust and building a relationship. This is why I'm not a fan of doing hacks and doing these kind of questionable things that may get you a short-term SEO bump. But in the long term, when Google identifies that you're doing those things, it might actually undermine trust and undermine the relationship. I look at Google like a referral source. Just like if you were in a BNI group or you were in a chamber or you were just knew some people in your local community, even your patients. Why do your patients refer to you? They refer to you because they like you, they trust you, they've had a good experience with you. Well, Google's similar. Like Google refers when someone says like, who's the best chiropractor in Dallas or who's the best chiropractor in St. Louis, or chiropractor in my town, chiropractor near me. What that person is asking Google for is a referral. They're trying to figure out who's the person worth going to, and Google is trying to provide the best answer for the user. And so when Google has a chiropractor ranked higher than another chiropractor, it has to do with these factors. What's relevant to the person's search? How prominent is this chiropractor? That's what builds trust with Google. That's how Google knows that this person is going to have a good experience, is because of prominence. And then proximity, who's close. Because you could have a really relevant, really prominent chiropractor that's 3 hours away. And when the person's searching in a particular area, Google's not looking 3 hours away and saying like, well, we don't trust any of these people. How about this person is 3 hours away? It doesn't do that. Local search is very much confined to proximity. So let's talk about these things and just what impacts what, and what some of these categories mean. So relevance is probably the most straightforward, and that's just, if you want to rank well for chiropractor and in a particular town, you need to be in that town. The word should be on your website. The word chiropractor. I mean, if you want to be known, you want people to find you if they're searching for an AK chiropractor or searching for an upper cervical chiropractor, sports chiropractor, pediatric chiropractor, Webster chiropractor, chiropractor near me, whatever. The words need to be on your website. Now, I don't mean chiropractor near me needs to be on your website. Like, that's sort of a silly thing that people do. I forget what I was searching recently. I was searching, gosh, I wish I could remember. I think it was just an address. I was actually looking up to see what business was at a particular address. And I saw a bunch of search results that were such and such business near me and such business near me and such business near me for this address. And it made me laugh because that's one kind of like keyword silly thing that people do. Google knows where your business is located. So putting near me all over your website doesn't actually help your rankings. But if you want to rank well for the word chiropractor and you're in a particular town, having the word chiropractor, having the location in the description, the zip code, the whatever, those things should be on your website. I'm always blown away by the number of chiropractors when I do website and SEO reviews, the number of chiropractors who don't have the word chiropractor on their homepage. They oftentimes don't have it in their site title. They don't have it in their page title. They don't have it in their meta description. They just don't have the word chiropractor. They'll have the word chiropractic because maybe it's Jones Chiropractic or Kennedy Chiropractic or whatever, but they don't have the word chiropractor. Now, I understand that Google's not stupid and AI is not stupid. So they know that chiropractic and chiropractor, those are similar things. But the reality is someone who's searching chiropractic isn't necessarily looking for a chiropractor. And so if we're going to be nitpicky about relevance, the keyword that you should be targeting with most chiropractors is going to be some version of chiropractor, and then probably your town that you're in. There are some exceptions to that, but if you're in Dallas and you want to rank well as a chiropractor, Dallas chiropractor should be in your website, in your title, in your meta description. It should be all over your website and different variations of that. So relevance is really important. This is true for your Google business profile as well. This would be true for your presence online in general. But if you're a chiropractor and you don't have chiropractor as your main category in your Google business profile, and I do see that, it sort of seems silly and strange, but there are some chiropractors that don't have chiropractor as their main category. That's a problem. And secondary and tertiary services fall into the same category. If you want to be known for acupuncture or massage or whatever, you need that information on your Google business profile. You need it on your website. And it needs to be on there in a way that Google understands, which gets into like structured data and metadata and image tags and things of that nature. And then you get into just like nerdy stuff. Now, your website isn't the only thing that affects SEO. And that's also sort of a big mistake that people think when it comes to SEO, but it is important. And if you don't have the foundational stuff on your website correct, which has to do with relevance, that's going to be a problem. You're never going to rank well if the words aren't on your website. Next, let's talk about prominence. Prominence is probably the most difficult one to get because prominence has to do with a lot of different things. You could be prominent because there's a lot of visitors on your website. You could be prominent because there's a lot of backlinks coming into your website, like indicating that your website is valuable and it's important and other people care. You could be prominent because you have a lot of local citations and a lot of local sources and a lot of local referrals coming into your website. It could be prominent because you have a lot of reviews. You could be prominent because your name of your practice has become synonymous with chiropractic within your area. This is one of those things that the example I always use when I do website and SEO review is Starbucks. If Starbucks opened up a new location in a town that it wasn't currently in, it doesn't have to wait around 6 months to have good SEO for coffee searches. It just doesn't, because Google associates Starbucks with coffee. It's sort of a known commodity already. Now, that's an extreme example, and most chiropractors don't have that sort of clout with Google. But one of the reasons The Joint actually tend to rank pretty well from a local search standpoint is because of that. It's a nationwide franchise. Google knows that that is chiropractic and it has something to do with chiropractic. So there's a little bit of authority clout. There's a little bit of prominence just because it's a Joint location. Now they still have to do other things right. And there's oftentimes it's not the most difficult thing in the world to outrank a Joint, but the Joint does have certain prominence elements that, Kennedy Chiropractic, that's one location in one place, or a practice that's brand new in the Dallas area or the Frisco area or the St. Louis area. Like when you're brand new and you have no proof of concept, you're just a new business, you're really, really struggling in the prominence category. So if you're working on your own local SEO or somebody else is working on your local SEO, they should be trying to do things, and it's probably a combination of things because you should be getting reviews and you should be focusing on that in your practice, but you should be focusing on things to build your prominence. You want to become obvious from a metric standpoint is this chiropractor is important and valuable and people are getting what they need. They're getting what they want. This is an authority that is in chiropractic. Therefore, I'm going to refer to them. This is also why when you're new to the area or you just start working on local SEO, it's not just as straightforward as like putting a couple keywords on your website or getting a couple more reviews and all of a sudden now you outrank everyone. You have to outrank everyone by relevance, like you're putting all the words right and doing all the right things. But then you have to also prove that you're more prominent and more trustworthy and create a better experience for people than the other chiropractors in your area who already have established more prominence in you, which is why they're outranking you. So those things are super important. Last is proximity, and proximity is really straightforward. The things that affect proximity are going to be where you're physically located. So where your practice is physically located matters a lot in terms of if you've ever seen heat maps on where you show up in the Google Maps in certain areas, it has a ton to do with where your practice is located. It also has to do with where your practice is located relative to other chiropractors. So if there's a lot of chiropractors in your area, or there's a lot of chiropractors that are to the north of your practice and nobody south. Well, you may rank really, really well and have a lot of reach to the south of your practice, but you may struggle to get reach to the north of your practice if you're going to run into like 50 other chiropractors. If you are on the outskirts of, let's say, St. Louis, and there's 100 chiropractors that are closer to like St. Louis, the internal kind of city of St. Louis, it's hard to rank well toward that inner circle of chiropractors where there's so many of them. It's going to be much easier to rank a little bit out on the other side of where you're located. And so proximity matters a lot. If you're out in the middle of nowhere and there's not a lot of chiropractors, then it's actually, you can get a lot of reach by not having all that much prominence and just a little bit of relevance. And proximity is, you're the only one around. So, if you're out in the middle of nowhere, it's pretty easy to rank well. And here's the thing, if everybody around you is doing crap SEO, like you're in a small town and there's just a bunch of old docs or a bunch of people that have never thought about it or never tried at it, it's easy to outrank them. And I've had chiropractic clients in the past who've, like, as they're getting reviews and things like that, they've been like, okay, we're outpacing everybody like 2x, 3x. Like, when do we stop, or when do we not worry about it? And my answer is always like, you never stop worrying about it. Like, you always hammer down, hammer down, hammer down. Like, I don't want to be like super competitive, but you kind of want to put your boot on their throat, you know, when, like, if you 2, 3, 4x reviews everybody around you and you're just absolutely dominating, that's not the time to take your foot off the gas. That's the time to be like, I'm going to be outpacing some people by so much that they're never going to outrank me. The best they could hope for would be second or third or whatever. That's the mentality that you should have. And as soon as you do take your foot off the gas, what's happening is your prominence starts to slip. And if now all of a sudden somebody else they're getting a little more attention, people are spending a little more time on that website, they're getting a few more reviews over the last 6 months than you have, like, all of that prominence can flip-flop, given enough time and given enough effort. And so this is why when people hire someone to help them with local SEO, oftentimes the kind of right way to think about it, whether you're doing it yourself or you have somebody else doing it, is it's sort of just a long-term ongoing marketing effort. It's not something that you do for 2 or 3 months and you're like, oh, we're ranking really well, thanks, I'm out. I mean, there's a little bit of a hold that goes with the benefit that you have. Like, it can actually, it's not like an ad where you shut an ad off and then, like, you don't, like, the ad goes away immediately. SEO doesn't work like that. You could have some momentum that all of a sudden it's like, hey, you're ranking well for 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. But if somebody else in your area is taking SEO seriously and you stop taking SEO seriously, the likelihood of them flip-flopping you with time is really high, because what they're doing over that period of time is they're building their relationship and building their trust with Google. Now, I've talked a lot about Google, and it's sort of a habit of mine as opposed to talking about AI, but a lot of this stuff is similar with AI. Like, AI is looking at the same stuff. It may be looking at it in a different way. Like, it might be prioritizing certain content over others. It might be prioritizing like social media over others. It might be Google may value reviews more, like its own reviews more so than like a Reddit post, but then AI might be looking at a Reddit post or might be looking at other things. So AI and Google are using different metrics to determine rank in terms of like what fits into these categories, but it's still the same 3 categories. And if you're doing really solid local SEO, the things you're doing for Google really do overlap with AI. And as time goes on, I'm sure it's going to become more obvious that we need to make sure that we're doing this, this, and this because that's what AI prefers. That's a little bit more obvious with Google because we have a lot of history with Google and we sort of know what Google wants. And it's become more obvious as time has gone on. AI is still one of those things where we're like, hey, there's a tremendous amount of overlap. If somebody comes along and they act like they have the secret to exactly how to rank really well in AI, I think they're probably pulling your leg a little bit. The thing that is happening a lot now is you have a lot of people, and I was going to do a podcast about this, but I'll just mention it here. You have a lot of people that know that AI is important. They know that chiropractors know that AI is important. And so they'll reach out to chiropractors and they'll talk about websites. They'll talk about marketing. They'll talk about search. They'll talk about this product, that product, answering services, emails, chat bots, whatever. They'll talk about all of this stuff. And they talk about it within the context of AI is important. AI is important. AI is a new wave. You want to get ahead of it. And it's like this really, really, it's taking advantage of the fact that AI is important, it's new, and chiropractors are ignorant to make a sale. And that doesn't mean that everybody that reaches out to you and is trying to help in those particular ways that they're trying to take advantage of you. But we have a whole, like, chiropractic has always had kind of liars and grifters and people that are selling chiropractors things and promising things that they can't really follow through with. That has existed in chiropractic forever, internally and externally. And AI is like the new wave of that. Like, people are just, AI is important, AI is important, AI is important. We can help you with AI. And because chiropractors don't know what they don't know, they oftentimes are, I think, more susceptible to getting taken advantage of in the AI department now, more so than what we have been in the past. So maybe my additional advice that I wasn't planning on talking about in this episode is when people approach you, just make sure you take a breath, that you don't agree to something right away without really thinking about it or asking a lot of questions. And the other thing I would say is just make sure you work with people that you trust and have a good reputation, because there's just people popping up everywhere that have AI solutions to your practice, and they're going to fix all of your problems. And it sounds really nice, but it may or may not be. So just be cautious, especially when people are selling AI. All right, that's it, guys. Relevance, prominence, proximity. Those are the three things you have to work on with local search, no matter if it's Google or it's AI. That's sort of the trick. The key is doing a lot of little things correctly, consistently. I'm done. I'm out of here. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for sharing the podcast. If you know a chiropractor who doesn't listen to the podcast and they would benefit from it, please share it with them. Share it on social. I do appreciate it. We are a small podcast. I am a small operation, and I always appreciate referrals. I also appreciate reviews. I've had somebody left a Apple podcast review recently. Thank you for that. If you want to leave a Google review, the link is in the footer of rocketchiro.com. That's it. I'm done. I'll talk to you guys on the next episode. See ya.